SS1 Economics students of Jesse Best Schools International. I'm very happy for you. Once again, I welcome you back to our online tutorial platform. I'm still your host, Mr. Linus. And today our topic is agricultural policies in Nigeria. But before that, a quick recap of our previous lesson. Last week, I taught us the meaning of marketing board, history of marketing board functions, as well as problems of marketing board. Like I said last week, marketing board is a statutory body set up by the government to regulate the procurement, the grading, the packaging, and the sale of some specific agricultural produce like cotton, cocoa, rubber, and what have you. I also taught us the history, which emanated from where? From the Colonial Development Act of 1929. After the Great Depression, there was a need to stabilize the prices of agricultural produce. For that reason, the introduction or the establishment of marketing board was initiated. Also taught us the functions. One of the functions is to stabilize the price of agricultural produce, to market cash crops for export. Problems: high level of illiteracy amongst farmers, as well as political problems. They haven't said that. Let's focus on what we have today. Our takeaways are, at the end of this lesson, you at home should be able to explain agricultural reform programs, highlight at least 3 objectives of each of the following agricultural reform programs in Nigeria, which are OFN, RBDA, GRP. What is or the meaning of agricultural reform? Agricultural reforms are actions taken by government to improve the agricultural sector, or they are projects set in place by government to improve agricultural sector. It could be initiatives, it could be visions written down, it could be plans of the government over time to improve the agricultural sector. Now, what this definition is saying is that whatever government does to improve any of the components of agriculture, we have fishery, we have forestry, we have crop farming. Whatever government does to improve the level of the growth of each component is called agricultural reform. So government could say, okay, let's provide more financial aid for fish farming. That's what agricultural reform. What government may say, okay, let's give fertilizer to farmer for the growing of crops. That is what agricultural reform program. So those things government put in place to improve the agricultural sector will refer to as agricultural reform. Now we'll consider them one after the other. Number 1, Operation Feed the Nation. This was established in the year 1976 on the 20th of May by the then military president, General Olusegun Obasanjo. The objectives are: 1, mobilize the nation towards self-sufficiency and self-reliance in food production. When you talk about self-sufficiency, it means you are okay all by yourself. Self-reliance, it means you are able and capable and independent of anybody. You don't depend on anybody. So in aspect of food production, one of the objectives of OFN is to make sure that food production is being carried out in Nigeria without the support or help of any foreign country. That is, it is a duty to grow the food production in Nigeria. Number 2, to encourage general pride in agriculture. When you have pride in something, it makes you feel good. You talk about it, you brag about it. So one of the objectives was to do what? To create the consciousness, the appetite, the proud self or the self-esteem in agriculture to feel happy. Instead of saying our source of revenue comes from oil, we could say our source of revenue comes from agriculture. That is to encourage general pride in agriculture. 3. To boost and promote balanced nutrition. When food production is increased, goods are enough. Raw goods, not processed food, not the ones already preserved with chemical. No, raw goods just gotten from farms. There's a difference between processed food or preserved food with and unpreserved food. Their nutritional level is different. You will agree with me that the one that is not processed or preserved has more nutritional value than the one that is preserved or that was preserved. 4. To eradicate poverty by making available to all food, which is one of the basic necessities of life. It's very clear. One of the ways to eradicate poverty is to make provision for food, especially to the ordinary citizen or the common man. So if they could be able to eat 3 square meal, now it's very okay that they have been shifted from the poverty line to a great, at least to an average life. So that is it. Through food production, such is to be achieved or was to be achieved. Number 5, to facilitate agricultural development in all parts of Nigeria. We have different regions: northern region, southern region, eastern region, and the western region. So the idea is to bring consciousness to all regions the need for the development of agricultural sector. So OFN, Operation Feed the Nation, was ringing its speaker or its tune that every region in the country should engage in agricultural activity. So that's one of their objectives, and they also, through government, provide incentives that actually made it work to some extent. Failure, lack of sustenance of agricultural policy. Now, when it comes to policy, it's a big problem in Nigeria, not only in agriculture, in even industrial sector. One of the reasons could be change of government. Now, it's well understood that when a government leaves office and another one takes over, sometimes or most times, the current one may not want to consolidate on the already existing policy, thereby making it difficult for the previous government to achieve what it's set in place. I'll give you an example. During Jonathan's administration, there was this thing called Shopee. Shopee was established to help the unemployed and the youth. President Buhari took power, and I don't think the Shopee is still in existence. He introduced Empower to also help the unemployed youth and it's for sustainable development. So you can see that Shopee's aim had been defeated. It's now Empower, and who knows what will happen next after this government. So it's non-sustaining or non-sustenance of policy. It's one of the challenges here. 2, inadequate provision of fertilizers to farmers. That's one of the problems encountered by this. Because of lack of fund, they were unable to provide fertilizers to farmers for cropping or for farming. And you know what that means? The value of farm produce will be low, and the revenue generated from it will also be low. Number 3, over-centralization of implementation. Over-centralization of implement. What does implement is? When you talk about central, that's at the top where everything counts, which is the federal level. When everything is carried out or is being done from there down, there will be difficulty in discharging of duty. How do I mean? Because the farmer may be waiting forever to get incentives, to get financial aid, and the presence of middlemen may not make it possible for the farmer in the local area to carry out the the farming activity. So that concentration of power or decentralization of implementation from the federal level made it difficult for this particular program to be as effective as thought by Nigerians. Next one is a River Basin Development Authority. This was established in the 1976 by the then president, military president then, General Olusegun Obasanjo. The objectives are to provide water for irrigation. Irrigation here stands for the supply of water for farming. So this authority was charged with the duty to make provision for water, for cropping, for farming. Also for domestic use, cooking, washing, bathing, and maybe mopping and some other things for domestic use as well. Number 3, to improve hydroelectric power generation. Now go down a bit, it says hydropower is fueled by falling water. When water is floating, maybe from up down, it helps the hydroelectric power plant to generate current, to generate electricity. So this organization or this program was used as a means to generate power. So one of their responsibilities was to do what? To provide water. And by the provision of water, they help in the improvement of hydroelectric power plant, thereby generating electricity. Number 4, to foster fishery projects. To foster fishery projects. You and I know that fishes don't live on land or in air. They live in water. So, given the fact that this organization is charged with the duty to make provision for water, so it's very easy to do what? To house fishes, or to train fishes, or to rear fishes, because water is made available, and thereby encouraging or improving fishery projects. 5, to encourage or make room for large plantation farming. When there's water, nothing can prevent. Let me put it this way: when there is no water supply, it's very hard to engage in large-scale production. But when in the presence of water, when there's provision for water, farmers could easily engage in large-scale production for commercial purpose. So this program had it as a duty, or has it as a duty to provide water for farming, large-scale farming. Number 2, to generate employment. We have different sectors here, or I may say positions here. We have irrigation, we have electric power plant, we have fishery. These are possible. They are able to exist or operate because of the provision of water, which is done by River Basin Development Authority. So through them, other sectors kickstart their production or their activities, by that creating jobs, because these sectors or this department will be controlled by people, by human beings. Therefore, it's a source of job creation. To have 7, to seek to upgrade and establish aquatic recreational facilities. Now, recreational activities for entertainment. It could be a situation whereby provision is made where animals that live in water float in water, and people see them and get entertained just by watching them. We also have encourage establishment of industrial complex that will harness raw materials gotten from established plantation. Now we have a cocoa plantation, we have rubber plantation, and some other plantations, even cashew plantation. So the or the crops or the raw materials farm produce from these plantations help the industrial sector to thrive. I repeat, help the industrial sector to thrive. Now, what it simply means, the industrial sector already have the raw material. The industrial sector already has the raw material to start production. So it's possible through agriculture, and this organization makes it possible for agricultural sector to be able to produce those raw materials that will be needed for industrial operation. Note, there are currently 12 river basin authorities in Nigeria. There are currently 12 river basin authorities in Nigeria. The last one here talks about Green Revolution Program. This was established in the year 1980 in the month of April by the then civilian president, President Shehu Shagari. One of the objectives here talks about to introduce modern input, the use of modern means, high-yielding variety of seeds, fertilizer, tractors into agricultural sector for what? Large-scale farming. Now, Green Revolution Program change the dimension. The dimension now is for what? Large-scale farming, and not the use of old method of farming or old seeds. No, different kinds of seeds, different species that can grow fast and increase when it comes to harvesting. Fertilizer, tractors, they all made available by this program, Green Revolution Program, and in turn increasing the agricultural or the commercial part or the commercial section of agriculture. Now we have to improve rice and fish production. That's one of the points. So then, rice and fish were known as the essential foods then. So the need for them to be produced at a large quantity was very necessary, and for that reason, concentration of a Green Revolution Program was also to improve rice and fish production. Number 3, to produce abundant food crops for local consumption. Now they found it as a duty upon themselves to make sure that there are enough food for local consumption, as well as enough produce or farm produce for exports. Now I've made mention of cash crops. Now some of the farm produce we export here in Nigeria are cocoa, cotton, rubber, groundnut, palm produce, either palm kernel, palm oil. Okay, so this sector, Green Revolution Program, made it a duty to increase the production of these products for export, and the farm and the produce or food crops for local consumption are the food crops for local consumption. We have yam, we have maize, we have beans, although beans could also serve as exports, and other things that we Gary as well, we eat them locally. Also, the criticisms, it was opposed severely by the opposition parties. During this period in 1980, before Obasanjo handed over to the civilian government, there were 5 political parties. The president, Shehu Shagari, was under MPN and some other 4 political parties. So they were seriously against his government, and they criticized him of favoring the rich So they were opposed. They were opposing him. They opposed his plans, even Green Revolution program. That's why number one criticism talks about it was opposed severely by the opposition parties. Number two, the policy was widely viewed as a program that favored the wealthy. It was viewed as a program that favored the wealthy. That is, the wealthy farmers. They were the ones being catered for, being given incentives, being given other financial aids other than the real local farmers, poor farmers that were actually doing the farming. We also have number three, the land decree at that time was seen as an incentive for wealthy farmers and not all farmers. That's one of the points. So it was like something for the rich and not for the poor farmers. So for that reason, it witnessed a downfall, a shock. It could not actualize its purpose because some politicians, they joined the race because there's provision for incentive financial aid, and they joined it, thereby jeopardizing the aim. So because of that reason, they couldn't achieve much. That is where we're going to stop for today. But before you go, here is the assignment. Discuss 2 agricultural reform programs and their challenges or failures. Discuss 2 agricultural reform programs and their challenges. To be submitted on or before 10 a.m. on Wednesday. On or before 10 a.m. on Wednesday. Make sure you type. Don't write on your notes or in your notes and snap to upload. And make sure you make use of Google Classroom, not email. Don't send me email, please. Make use of the Google Classroom. Type, open to your MS Word, type and upload, or WPS. Type. Organize your work very well. Some of you did well in your last test. Some didn't do any better. I thank you. Keep safe. Be respectful at home. I hope to see you guys soon. Thank you.